Hello. So for my final presentation, I will be discussing part 4 of the course, which is excelling in the workplace. The concept that I have chosen to highlight is leadership and conflict management. This means a lot to me because I think I have some natural leadership abilities, just from what I have assessed in myself, but also feedback that I've gotten from teachers and professors and supervisors. So that's what really sparked my interest in HR and especially and particularly one day taking on a leadership role in HR. So I wanted to kind of go through what the section had broken down into. So it was chapters 8 and 9. But I'm going to highlight the last chapter, chapter 10, which is the concept I'm going to talk on, leadership and conflict management. So I want to discuss what makes a great leader, dealing with difficult people, and what kind of leader I would like to be. So what makes a great leader? Situations are black and white, but great leaders really enjoy being in the gray. So they enjoy having contradicting and diverse opinions being thrown at them. So they have all the information they need to make the best decision. Being in the gray really does lead to a lot of problem solving, like having to use problem solving measures, and then it leads to a lot of innovative and new ideas. Great leaders are passionate. They love and believe in what they do and why they do it. This is really important to give off the right vibe to your employees. I think employees, if they ever feel a doubt in their leaders, that will definitely show in their work performance, in their attitudes. Great leaders are also fiercely honest with themselves. They are secure in themselves. They're sure of the person that they are and what morals and values that they hold dear, and how that applies to the workplace. Great leaders have to remain objective and practice self-awareness. So remaining objective keeps from biases being built, and it also helps in remaining professional. And having a good sense of self-awareness. This is important so that you know how you are coming off to other people. As a leader, being able to put yourself in the shoes of an employee and know how you're coming off to them can really benefit the relationship. So dealing with difficult people, I think this is important information for leaders to know, because when you can pinpoint some personality traits in a person, then you can kind of find the best strategies to motivate them, to manage them, and in situations of conflict, be able to use the right tactics for conflict resolution instead of making things worse. So we have the bully, who is aggressive and angry and not always far from a blow-up. They can be pretty detrimental to a team, so a leader should keep an eye out if anyone starts exhibiting these behaviors. The sniper is someone who uses very rude and intentionally hurtful comments towards another person, another employee. They might try to make it seem sarcastic or try to laugh it off like it was a joke, but they only tend to do this really when the whole team has gathered for like a meeting or something, so there is a sense of like, I'm trying to embarrass the other person. Then there's the drama queen, who is immature and petty. They gossip about others in the office. They seek attention. They make mountains out of molehills. They try to get pity from other people. And they're not good at, coping mechanisms. So if you were to go to them with any complaint, or if they felt stressed out in any way, they might, just start crying and having a breakdown, or, might blow up and start cursing, like who knows what could happen. The slacker doesn't really need a lot of excuses, or they don't need a lot of excuses. They don't need a lot of explanation. They are just filled with excuses as to why they can't or why they won't do a task. The vampire is what I call the fun slacker because they're so positive and they get along with the team and everything, but it's because they're being very manipulative and they're using their team members to do the vampire's work for them. So even when they're not doing the work, they're still taking credit for the work that they didn't do. So that's something to look out for. A roadblock is a person who hates change. They're very vocal about hating the change and they refuse to make any changes. In my experience, this has usually been like older individuals, and it's actually kind of it's a difficult one to deal with because businesses strive on the fact that they are constantly adapting and constantly changing and modernizing. So someone who is against that, unfortunately, I don't think they would do well in the professional world. Then there's the distractor who means well, they go off topic, and they're very long-winded, so it's very much a tangent. Leaders need to take control in situations like this and just kind of nip it in the bud and say, hey, we don't have the time for it right now, but come to my office later, we'll talk about it in more detail. So then there's the patient who has a lot of personal issues that they are bringing into work. They talk about the issues while they're on the clock with their other coworkers, and that's very distracting, unfortunately. It can cause a lot of work performance issues. I understand that there can, I think most businesses are understanding of stress and personal stress. So I think leaders need to be to make sure that they are letting employees know that they are available as a resource if someone needed their help. The team player and the star are the ideal employees. They are, agreeable and dependable. They do what they're asked in a timely manner. The star goes above all that too and takes on extra duties without being asked. So leaders sometimes can kind of be seen as the parents. They have to keep a close eye on employees and kind of follow up with how they're doing throughout their throughout the year. They also take the time to develop and coach quality employees. So the team players and the star employees that do so well, they definitely companies want to keep them at the company as long as they can. So grooming them for potential promotions, those would be the type of investments that a leader would make in that. Leaders are also role models to employees, so it's very important that you practice what you preach and lead by example. You can't contradict what you're saying and what you're doing. It just does not work. There are some negatives, though, to being the parent as a leader. The first would be that they might start to feel as though that employees don't really have a say anymore because they know what's best. So it's this authoritative approach to leading, which can cause issues later. And then when the lines are blurred that much, when you let the lines be blurred that much, and you get attached and you can't remain objective anymore, you start to become biased. And, in certain situations where an employee, unfortunately, might need to be terminated, it can be hard for the leader to do because they feel this connection. And, it's understandable, but to be a great leader, you do have to have a sense of separation so that you can keep from that happening. So what kind of leader do I want to be? So I wanted to focus on the situational leadership theories because they spoke to me the most. They kind of basically state that change the tactics of how you lead depending on the task and the team. that's involved. So I think great leaders are adaptive, they are good at problem solving, and they are willing to do a lot of trial and error. So when you have a team that you're just starting off with, it does take some time to get to know them and figure out what motivates them. I wanted to highlight the Blake and Mountains managerial grid. I would strive to be the team leader on this grid, which is a person the leader who has high concern for the task as well as the team. Personally, my role model, or the model of leading that I would like to follow, is kind of how I respond to supervisors and managers now. So I think the best managers that I've had have this sense of like they're kind and understanding, and I know that they're there for me, they're supportive, but there is definitely a feeling of, oh, I can't cross the line with them. I think that's really important to have those very clear boundaries. Like I said before, once those get blurred, it can be really hard to remain objective, and it can be really hard to bring those boundaries back. So that's what I would really strive for, is that type of leading style. I admire the leaders that don't ever have to like say anything to make people think that they're a leader. I think that they have this confidence about themselves, and they exude that power just in how they carry themselves. I think that's really important for a great leader too, is that you have to have a confidence and self-assuredness in yourself, so that you can, your team can feel confident in you as well. I think I'm really also going to strive on being, on recognizing good work and hard work. I think that is a great motivational tool to use with the team, being supportive of that. And then always maintaining that, employees be accountable for themselves, and, take responsibility if they do make mistakes, not to wallow in it, but to move forward and problem solve, and, make sure that they're doing what they can to not make that mistake again. I think overall the expectation that I will try to, enhance in a team that I manage is a good work ethic. I pride myself on my work ethic, and I think that it's important to have a good work ethic. So I would really like to promote that in a team that I lead or manage. There's skills that you can learn to better your work ethic, and it's not just going to help you in this particular time, but it's always going to be helpful. So that's something that I would really like to highlight too, when I get to become a leader. So finally, I just wanted to say thank you to my professor for a great semester. I really enjoyed the class, and I really liked, reading and responding to different people in the class. This particular course I think is actually very, very important for anybody that wants to go into the professional world, just to be able to get an introduction as to what is business communication, and, give them some strategies to start off with. So thank you again so much, and have a great one.